Alright, let's talk about money, specifically money from the government. You might have heard some whispers, some chatter, maybe even a loud pronouncement about something President Donald Trump has called his big beautiful bill. Now that sounds rather grand, doesn't it? Like a bill that wears a tiny, perfectly coiffed toupee. The main headline-grabbing part of this idea, the bit that makes everyone's ears perk up, is a proposed $5,000 stimulus check. Yes, $5,000. This idea was floated around back in February 2025 and it was termed, rather imaginatively, a Doge dividend. We'll get to what Doge means in a bit, but for now, just picture that, a big check, possibly with an eagle on it, maybe even a golden retriever. So, who would get this lovely pile of cash, according to the plan? Well, the idea is that these $5,000 checks would go to taxpayers. That's usually how these things work. If you pay taxes, you might be in line for some of it back, especially when the government is feeling generous, or wants you to feel like it's being generous. The name Big Beautiful Bill itself is classic Trump branding. It's bold, it's memorable, and it definitely suggests something significant is on offer. It's designed to make you think this isn't just any old piece of legislation. It's something special, something, well, big and beautiful. It makes you wonder if the bill comes with its own theme music. Now here's a crucial point, and please listen carefully because this is important. This Big Beautiful Bill and its $5,000 checks are, as of right now, May 30th, 2025, still just a proposal. It's an idea that has been talked about. It has not been written down into an official document that lawmakers, the people in Congress who actually make the laws, can look at, debate, and vote on. Think of it like someone saying they're going to bake a giant, beautiful cake. They've told you it's going to be amazing with 5,000 layers of chocolate, but they haven't actually bought the ingredients or turned on the oven yet. It's a plan, a notion, a twinkle in the presidential eye. So, while the sum of $5,000 is certainly enough to make anyone sit up and pay attention, and the name Doge dividend has a certain futuristic ring to it, we are still very much in the talking stages. No one is lining up at the Treasury just yet. It's a concept that has been introduced to the public, a promise of potential financial relief. But the journey from a spoken idea to actual money in people's bank accounts is a long and winding one, often filled with more twists and turns than a garden hose that's been attacked by a very determined badger. We need to see a lot more before this becomes a reality for anyone. So if this big beautiful bill were to happen, where would all this money for $5,000 checks magically appear from? That's always the billion-dollar question, or in this case, a many-billion-dollar question. The proposal suggests that these Doge dividends would be funded by using 20% of savings identified by a group called the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE for short. Yes, Doge, like the internet dog. This department, linked with Elon Musk, was apparently tasked with finding ways for the government to save money by being more efficient, which is a noble goal, like trying to teach a cat to file its own tax returns. However, there's a bit of a snag with this funding plan, a rather large snag actually. Initially, the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, had a very ambitious goal of finding $2 trillion in savings. That's a number so big it's hard to even picture. It's like a mountain range made entirely of $100 bills. But, and this is a big but, that $2 trillion savings goal has since been revised. It's been scaled down quite significantly to $150 billion. Now, $150 billion is still a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but it's considerably less than $2 trillion. This reduction casts a rather large shadow of doubt on whether there would be enough savings to actually pay out $5,000 to every taxpayer. Beyond the slightly wobbly funding mechanism, there's another major hurdle. As we tiptoe towards the end of May 2025, there is no formal bill about these $5,000 checks sitting in Congress. No piece of paper has been officially introduced in the House of Representatives or the Senate. For an idea to become a law, it has to go through a whole long process. A member of Congress has to write it up, it has to be discussed in committees, debated by everyone, voted on, and then, if it passes both parts of Congress, it goes to the president to be signed. Right now, we're stuck at the "someone mentioned it" stage. Because there's no actual bill yet, a lot of the crucial details are completely missing. For example, who exactly would qualify for this $5,000? Would there be income limits like there were for previous stimulus checks? When would these payments go out? How would you receive it? Direct deposit? A paper check? Maybe a giant novelty coin? None of these specifics have been laid out because, simply put, the plan hasn't reached that level of detail. It's like being promised a fantastic vacation, but no one can tell you where you're going, when you're leaving, or how you'll get there. It's all a bit up in the air. Now, this isn't the first time Americans have heard about stimulus checks coming from the federal government. Many of us remember quite vividly the checks that were sent out during the COVID-19 pandemic. Those were tough times, and the government stepped in to try and help people and the economy. There were actually 3 main rounds of these federal payments that went out in 2020 and 2021. These were officially known as economic impact payments, but most people just called them stimulus checks. They were a lifeline for many families struggling with job losses and uncertainty, helping to pay for essentials like food and rent. The first of these pandemic-era checks started going out around March or April of 2020, then a second smaller check was issued, and people generally received it by January 15, 2021. The third round of payments was sent out between March and December of 2021. It's also worth noting that if you think you missed out on that third payment, the one from 2021, which was up to $1,400, the deadline to claim it as a recovery rebate credit on your taxes was April 15, 2025. Unfortunately, that date has passed and there are no extensions. Any unclaimed money from that program goes back to the U.S. Treasury. So while Mr. Trump is talking about new federal checks, it's important to know that as of right now, in May 2025, Congress has not approved any new federal stimulus package. Lawmakers know that many families are still feeling the pinch from rising costs, but they haven't agreed on sending out more direct payments to everyone across the country. However, that doesn't mean there's no help available at all. Some individual states are actually stepping up and offering their own relief payments to their residents. These are often called things like inflation relief payments or tax rebates, and they come from state budgets, not the federal government in Washington, D.C. For instance, if you live in New York, the state is sending out checks that could be between $150 and $400 to households that qualify. Over in Colorado, residents who filed their 2024 state tax returns on time are getting something called Tabor refunds, which is basically the state giving back some surplus money to taxpayers. Other states like Georgia, South Carolina, and Idaho are also issuing their own rebate payments from time to time, usually when their state has extra money. Who gets these state payments and how much they get depends entirely on the rules in that specific state, like your income, if you live there full-time, and your tax filing status. Whenever there's talk about government money, especially big sums like $5,000 stimulus checks, it's like a dinner bell for scammers. These are dishonest people who try to trick you into giving them your money or your personal information. The Internal Revenue Service, the IRS, is always warning people to be very careful. Scammers will try all sorts of things. They might send you fake text messages or emails that look official, claiming you qualify for a new stimulus check, perhaps even a supposed fourth stimulus check for $2,000 that keeps popping up in rumors but isn't real. These messages often try to create a sense of urgency. It's incredibly important that you do not click on any links in these suspicious messages. Never, ever pay a fee to someone who claims they can help you get stimulus money. The real government doesn't work that way. And be extremely cautious about sharing your social security number, bank account details, or any other private information unless you are absolutely certain you are on an official, secure government website, which usually ends in .gov. If you see something that makes you suspicious, or if you're unsure if something is legitimate, the safest bet is to go directly to the official IRS website, which is irs.gov, to check for any real updates or announcements. So, what about the future? Could these $5,000 federal checks, or any other federal stimulus payments, actually happen? Well, it's possible, but it's certainly not a guarantee. A few things could influence whether new federal payments are proposed or approved. The outcome of election cycles, like the one we're looking towards, can play a big role, as different political parties might have different ideas about stimulus. Big changes in the economy, like if things suddenly get much worse, could also prompt lawmakers to act. Sometimes, unexpected emergencies can also lead to new legislation for financial help, as we saw with the pandemic. For now, the best advice is to keep an eye on official news from the federal government and also pay attention to what your own state government might be doing in terms of relief programs. Making sure your federal tax filings are up to date is also always a good idea, as this is often how eligibility for payments is determined. As for President Trump's big beautiful bill and the $5,000 Doge dividend, It remains a proposal, an idea. It's something to be aware of, but until a formal bill makes its way through Congress and gets signed into law, it's not money you can count on just yet. Stay informed, stay cautious, and maybe keep an eye on that Doge.